Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a throwback. What a throwback. Wow. Powerful. Powerful.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me
You
wonder
know,
how I keep from
you
going under.
never think that you get the
Feels like a jungle
opportunity
sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from
to
going under.
be involved with people and how life becomes full circle. Y'all, I'm sitting here with the man himself, Mr. Melly Mel. Brother, how you doing,
Good,
man?
good. How you doing, Norman?
I'm good, thank God, brother. I'm blessed and highly favored and just so privileged to have you in studio with me to get an insight of who the real Grandmaster is, who really started this game.
That's right.
And, take us back to you're 16 years old, 15 years old, 14 years old, and you decide that you want to be a rapper.
Well, actually, originally I started out as a b-boy, because it was no rap, but until we kind of designed that, but it was just DJs and it was dancers. So I was a dancer. I was a b-boy.
All right, so yeah, you were saying, you was what's a b-boy?
A b-boy is a break dancer.
A break dancer.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I started out as a break dancer, but it was not like spinning on your head or nothing like that. That wasn't invented yet. It's like nice feet, pretty hands. You know what I mean?
Right.
The whole thing was like we used to have the Lee jeans and get a can of spray starch so that the crease you can almost stand them up by themselves. And the whole thing is you get a nice pair of sneakers, new pair of sneakers, and the whole thing is you want to do everything you got to do, but you don't want to scuff up your sneakers and you don't want to mess the crease in your pants up.
My
You know what I
man.
mean? So after it started transitioning into the more athletic style of b-boying, that's when we got into the rapping. Listening to what Herkimer was doing, Clark Kent, Timmy Tim, Coke LaRock, and all them, and then we just evolved with the rapping. With
Where
the
would you
MCing.
grow up at?
South Bronx, in the Bronx.
Where at? Which street?
Far like I used to when we first started rapping, we was on Union Avenue on 163rd Street.
Yeah.
Like where Forest Projects.
No, you was
is.
around the corner from Johnson's Barbecue.
Absolutely.
Let's
There
keep
you
it
go.
real.
That's right, Johnson's Barbecue.
You was around the corner from
163rd Street.
from McKinley Projects and all that over there.
That's right.
Six
That's
Corners
right.
Barbershop.
That's right. Six Corners. That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's
See,
old
he's
school.
old. That's what
that's
the G,
why,
they know.
that's
Six
why we
Corners and all
here,
that.
brother. Six
That's
Corners
right.
Barbershop.
That's right.
Across the street was the Big Three.
Right.
When they had moved up to Prospect Avenue. So you started coming together. Back in those days, we had a lot of gangs, not the gangs that they have today.
Right.
But were you involved in any of that?
Yeah, we did. They had the neighborhood gang where I lived with the Black Pearls.
The Black
so
Pearls.
We was, I was like not I was like the little black baby pearls or whatever you want to call it. And the crazy thing is, hip hop kind of phased out the gang culture.
Okay.
Because like most of even like the Casanova crew and the Zulu Nation, like all the guys that was connected with hip hop, and like as far as the security wise, they were all black spades. They were all gang members.
Okay.
And through hip hop, I guess they just found another lane to go in. Even right now, Zulu Nation, they do armed security. They got a nice, good, tight team, but they all were ex gang members, and that's what our hip hop did for us.
Okay.
It turned us from like street guys. Now you got a career. You could set up a business.
Right.
Graffiti artists became regular artists.
Right.
Designers, and it brought us it gave us a life because it was culture.
So growing up in the South Bronx, 163rd Street, Union Avenue, Prospect Avenue, all through that area, and growing up and being a member of the Black Pearls, when was it that when you decided that this wasn't what you wanted to do, you wanted to do something different?
Well, I was about like 15 or 16. And I used to get in trouble a lot, running the streets and hanging out and so forth. And it was a point where, like as far as education-wise, I knew I was kind of messing that up because I wasn't really, going to school and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was at one point I was in this, the fifth, and I was going to the sixth grade, and it was a teacher named Mr. Torres. He was the teacher in the best class in the 6th grade. So I was going to his class, number one.
Okay.
And then he ran the night center, number 2. Now he was kind of like a street guy, but he just so happened to be a teacher.
What school was that at?
PS 23.
Okay.
So
PS 23.
so when he knew that, because he knew me from the center, so when he knew that I was going to his class, he came up there and he put his hand on my nose like this. He said, "Listen, Melvin, I'm not fucking with you. Either you gonna come to my class or I'm gonna come to your house and I'm gonna fuck you up."
Wow.
He just like
He
that.
kept it 100.
Yeah. And he was that because he was a street guy. So I knew I wasn't gonna be able to, I wasn't gonna be able to bullshit him, right? So now every week I used to hang out, with these, couple of guys, we go out, we sniffing glue, we picking pockets, just being weird. And it was Friday going into Saturday, and I knew, I was gonna have to, first day of school was Monday. So Saturday night, I didn't go hang out with these dudes. I just stayed in the house. Just so happened early Sunday morning, the dudes that I used to hang out with, they snatched up 2 Puerto Rican girls and they took them up to the roof and they raped them and they threw one of them off the roof.
What?
Killed them, right? So now they all knew we was all running together. We was thick as thieves. So I come outside Sunday morning. It done been in the papers and everything that, the girls got raped and threw up. They're like, "Yo, Mel, what did you do?" I'm like, "Listen, I wasn't there. They was going to lynch me right there because they thought I was with them."
Right.
And that's when I knew, number one, I dodged a bullet. And then number 2, the writing was on the wall. I was going to have to do something with my life other than just running around with dudes like how I was running around with and being like them. So me making that choice to stay in the house, to go in Mr. Torres' class because he threatened me,
Right.
That was the one decision. That was the first real good decision that I ever made, because had I not stayed in the house, I would have been, Melvin Glover, rapist, murderer, instead of, being who I am today. And that was when I started trying to take, my talent and what I was doing as far as entertainment-wise. I started taking it more seriously.
Well,
so
that's definitely the hand of God that was on you, brother, to keep you in the house. And
Absolutely.
Mr. Torres.
Absolutely.
So if
and that's to this day, that's why they say steel sharpens steel, because he was a man. Like
Right.
he wasn't, he wasn't none of these teachers like how they was now. He was like, hey, either you gonna learn or I'm fucking you up.
Right.
And that's how his class was. And
if
he ran.
Mr. Torres can hear you right now, what would you say to Mr. Torres?
Hey, thank you. I mean, he
My
made me.
man.
I mean, he used to walk around in the class and he's like, "Yo, y'all stink. What do y'all don't have good. You don't have good hygiene." He look at your hands. So you put your hands on the desk, and if you got dirt under your fingernails, he'll whack you. You know what I mean? And to this day, I mean, I always try to keep my nails clean.
Right,
it's
right,
like it's just something that he literally beat it into us.
Right.
He beat it into me.
And you
but
got
he
the
was
message.
he was a strong man, and I credit him for making me the type of person that I am.
Part of the message, right?
Absolutely.
Part of the message. So you get this intuition to decide, listen, I'm going to do something different. All right. What took you to that level of saying, after Mr. Torres, after the girl, rest her soul in peace, gets abused and the other one thrown to her death, what transforms you at this point? All your crew is gone. They getting ready to go to jail.
Right.
All right. What transforms you at that point to say, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, it's just trying to basically get out the ghetto. Because see, how I think, like, and what the difference between what's going on now and then what was going back then, you had to do something to leave the ghetto. It wasn't like like our parents didn't paint the ghetto as something that was cool and that was pretty. This is where we was, but we got to get up out of here. Even a junkie will see you in the street, like they seen, I'm hanging out, I had a little potential. They're like, yo, man, you got to get out of here. It's like you got you got 2 cents up under your hat.
Right.
You got to get up out of here. So going into the music and in the entertainment and the rapping, that was our way, to get out of the ghetto, to see the world, and we did it. I mean, we did it. We've been a lot of places, made some money,
Well, you definitely did it, but there is a turning point that you sit down and you say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start writing. When did you start writing to be able to say, this is it?
Well, like after we started b-boying, and then because that was the whole thing, just putting rhymes together. So I was like maybe 16, 17, started writing up the first rhymes that we was writing, and me and my brother Kid Creole, we would put routines together. Then we got one of the other brothers, Cowboy. He was in the group.
Right.
So it was about 16, 17. Just writing, and I wish I could write more. But. That was the whole thing, just to stockpile them rhymes, just to have, a nice little repertoire of rhymes.
And when did you write the message?
I actually wrote the rhyme the message was actually written by the main body of the message. It's 4 writers. So it's Sylvia Jiggs Chase that did the music, and then it's me and Ed Fletcher that did the lyrics.
Okay.
So the part that I wrote, "The Child Is Born," that rhyme, I wrote that in I believe it was like 79, 80.
Let me hear a little bit of that.
Child is born with no state of mind, blind to the ways of mankind. God is smiling on you, but he's frowning too, because only God knows what you'll go through. You'll grow in the ghetto, live a second rate. Your eyes will sing a song of deep hate. Places you play and where you stay looks like one great big alleyway.
Wow.
Yeah. So I wrote that when I was about 18.
And you wrote that. And that's a masterpiece. That is something, the whole song, the whole message is something that a lot of young rappers today, copyright.
Right.
Not copyright, but they borrow the lyrics, they borrow the beat. How would you encourage a young individual that is possibly involved in gang violence right now, that they want to get out of it, they want to change their style? What would you suggest to them to do? Because it's not that easy.
Yeah, but see, everybody's just so invested in it. It's almost, I'm not saying it is impossible, but see, they have to find it into themselves, not to fall into the bullshit. See, my whole thing about being life, period. If I see too many people doing one thing, even if they're doing the right thing, chances are I'm going to go do something else. Because if you're trying to make a living out of it, that's your competition over there.
Right.
So either you're going to have to swim in the same pool as them and swim faster than them, or you could just go over here and just make another pool. You know what I mean? So all these rappers now, it's like they basically doing a different version of the same song over and over and over and over again. The female rapper, they doing a different version of the same song over and over and over again. There's no different subject matter. It's just, it's just the same song and the same vibe. So now what it is everything is stagnant. Everybody's stuck. You're stuck in that same kind of lifestyle. And it's almost like if you putting, just like if you putting selling dope into a song, or if you're putting gangbanging into a song, it's just like you gangbanging. Even when you make the song, you still gangbanging, even though you might not.
You co-signing it,
right? So that's what it all is. All these, you talking about it. You're probably gang affiliated, and at the end of the day, you're going to be stuck. Because it's not like how when we made records, to sell records, to make money. They making records to promote a lifestyle that y'all not going nowhere with it. Now, you could even say, Melly Mel's a hater. Okay, and I could be a hater. I'll be the first to admit that. But Melly Mel is 63. You might not be 40. Talking the way you talking.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because
there's
all
no
reckless.
message there.
Right. It's bad. It's like bad magic.
Right.
Like if you saying this and you putting your heart and your feelings into it, and you saying it with gusto, and then the people learning it like how you saying, it's just creating the bad. Is to me is almost like you creating bad magic. To whereas when we did it, groups like behind us, it was Public Enemy, is X-Clan, is Poor Righteous Teachers, is all these guys that it brought a level of consciousness to KRS-One's.
Right.
It brought a level of consciousness.
Right.
These guys, you're bringing a level of unconsciousness because what you're talking about, I mean, it might sound good and the beats are nice, but where are you going as a person, and then where are your people going as a people?
Got you.
You see what I'm saying? To whereas if a young man can't come outside and go up the block because it's a situation up the block of your own creation, to whereas you ain't never going to be cool with those guys up the block.
Wow.
And
And that's deep.
right.
You're right. You're 100% correct.
And so we stuck. They stuck. But then, if you speak, oh, yeah, he hating, and I could be hating. I mean, there's nothing wrong with hating something if it's wrong.
I don't think it's hating at all. What I think it is when people don't agree with you, they go out, and those are selfish people.
Right.
I've learned that a selfish person is someone who doesn't agree with you and wants to go find 10 other people to agree with them to dislike you.
Right.
That's the selfish people. And you're not a selfish brother.
No, absolutely
You are
not.
absolutely not. So if they want to think you're a hater, then hell, I'm a hater too, for that matter.
Right.
Because you're sending the wrong message to the younger generation and not giving them an opportunity to grow for themselves. You're trying to pollute their mind with something that's what you call black magic or whatever it is that they're trying to do out there.
Yeah.
You wrote, when you did the song, the lyrics to that song, I think that was the part of that major success, was those words, because at the age that you wrote that, you had to be under a lot of pressure to write that, to see that. Tell me about that vision.
Well, it wasn't necessarily pressure. It's just like just being creative, and you just want to. It's just like I said. I want to be the next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when everybody else is just writing about how many girls they could get, how good they could write rhymes, how much money they make. I just said, let me just write about this. And the frame, the blueprint for the rhyme, it was actually Stevie Wonder, "Living for the City." A boy is born in Hard Time, Mississippi, and I wrote, "A child is born with no state of mind." Like, this is my concept of if I'm writing something in the style of a living for the city.
Right.
And it's basically the same formation, the city kind of environment. The young guy, he grows up, he's looking at all the dope dealers. You know what I mean? He fall into the wrong crowd. He get arrested. He go to jail. At the end of the rhyme, he hung himself.
Wow.
But it was all inspired by Living for the City. But then, like I said, going into me, you just want to be different and have a contrasting element as far as what you're doing. And I think one of the only rappers that kind of mastered the art of doing that was Tupac. Like, he could talk, just regular rhymes, saying, gangster rhymes. But then he had other elements to his, Mary Had a Baby, and he had other elements that made it, that, his talent was more diverse than compared to all the guys that come after that. Like I said, they just making the same record, over and over and over. Oh, yeah, I come from the hood, and we sell dope in the hood, and I had to sell dope, and, I shot so-and-so, and so-and-so shot so-and-so. And then as art imitates life, you got, like, whereas we could have had, maybe, 8, 9, or 10 Malcolm X's and Martin Luther Kings. Now you got, 1,000 killers and see, and my whole thing as far as young and being black, and then you living in America, or you living in the world today, you see white crime all the time. Right? But they commit crimes to make money. So they have different levels of crimes. They have regular street crime, then they have organized crime, then they have white collar crime.
Right.
But they, on each level, you can make a certain amount of money. And when you get to the top level, you have a certain amount of, you'll be anonymous. Like, they don't know that you're committing a crime and making the money. With black crime, you see all this moving around and everything that everybody's doing, and they talking, and everybody can empathize with these kids and what they're doing. But as you're doing all that, you still broke.
Yeah.
So you spinning your wheels. Like, I can understand a hard-working man. Now, you working hard. And you still you still struggling, but you working hard, and you getting, you making your way, and you getting your bills paid. but you ain't hurting nobody.
Right.
Now you still struggling, but you ain't hurting nobody. So now that's work. These dudes, they out here doing all this, and you're scamming, and you're looting and everything, selling drugs and robbing,
killing each other,
and you still broke.
Yeah, you're killing each other, and I never did quite understand the fact that you get 4 guys, and one of them is strapped. You walk down the street, stick somebody up, take $200 from them. Gun goes off, kills that person. You all are going to each get $50 apiece from that robbery and 25 years to life in prison. That just doesn't make any sense. Let that make sense to me, because it doesn't.
Right.
And that's exactly what you're talking about, is how young African-American brothers and Latino brothers, and not so much as the Latino brothers as it is the African-American brothers.
Because see, the thing is, and my concept, this goes all the way back to even in the 40s, like when black dudes first came to the city and got on the streets, they fell in love with the streets too much.
Right.
See, the Temptations made a joint. Money, I ain't got no job. Money, I ain't got no job. Can't find me on the streets. Raised me from a baby. That's all of our story. You know, I had a mother and a father. They had very little to do with how I came out compared to what's going on in the streets.
Right.
So now the streets is dictating to, you know, and like I said, now going back an hour, we had to get out of the streets.
Right.
Now the streets dictate that you have to stay in the streets. And this is what the streets is showing.
Credibility or whatever the case.
Or you could shoot so and so, or you could rob, and you gotta scare, and you gotta be a threat. You gotta be a little terrorize the community, and you're not going nowhere.
And the old people can't even come out of their apartments anymore.
They basically they're hostages. They nobody has a voice, and then it get to the point where you over empathize with these dudes, and these dudes are never going to do you no good. Like the kids could look, you could look at your kids. Oh yeah, that's my kid. You know, he's special. I look at kids like is an investment. It's like, you know, if you got race horses, only the fastest horse going to be in the race.
This is true.
Now you could love these kids, but he ain't going to win. If y'all going out looting, then y'all in robbing, all that's low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
I would have more respect if you rob the bank. The bank gonna get their money back, and if you get away, you good.
Right.
Right?
But you're gonna stick up Mrs. Jones from down the street. You're gonna knock her in the head. You know, or you're gonna sneak up behind her, and after you knock her in the head, you're gonna turn her around and find out that that's your mother that you just hit in the head.
And people over they have too much empathy for these kids. It's just like all that loot and all this, they have it all on the news. You see 50, 60, 70 kids, 80 kids, 90 kids, 100 kids. None of these parents recognize their kid?
Damn. Real talk.
That one time. Did any parent ever say, oh yeah, that was my kid, I'm gonna turn it? No.
There was one incident, and I gotta reflect on it, exactly what it was, but I think it was in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Where that mother came out there and she beat his ass.
Right.
That's a mother.
That's a mother.
Happy Mother's Day to that mother, because she was like, no, you're not getting down like this.
Right.
I didn't raise you like that.
To be throwing rocks at no cops and, you know what I mean?
God bless her. Yeah.
Right. So, that's the only one I've seen. That's the only time.
Wow.
Everybody, they did it up in Bay Plaza. They all through Bay Plaza and whooping it up and jumping around. And look, and at the end of the day, like, okay, you could see that you see, oh yeah, the kids are our future. So you mean to tell me that's going to be the future? Those kids? You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, they gonna you can only get out of them what they want for themselves. But we ain't telling them nothing.
Right. You're letting the streets raise them. Now, I understand that the parents have to go to work and they have to do what they have to do, but you're still supposed to have some idea of what's going on with your child.
You supposed to be a parent and raise your kid, and and I don't even go by because there'd be this whole thing. Yeah, well, a woman can't raise a young man. I'm not going to go by that.
My mother raised us.
I'm saying that happens. I'm
my
saying
father wasn't around. So
you know what I mean?
That's an old story.
Because even the men, you got. And even if you ain't got a father, there's supposed to be some man that's supposed to make a good example.
Right.
You got, all these gangbangers. They're not young.
Right.
Now they up in their 40s.
Yeah, or older.
Or
older.
Right. You got situations where the is a grandfather. Well, I know in Texas and in LA, of course, and probably even Chicago too. Grandfather, father, son, and they all in the same gang.
Wow.
And then,
that's you see that's what makes you different, Mel, because a lot of people would look at guys our age and say, "Oh, what's up, OG?" No, there's a difference. I, like you, am a Master G.
Right.
Someone that continues that even though I'm not there with you, you're getting revenues and royalties from the work that you put in, from the work that I put in.
Absolutely.
And they're getting paid for that.
Absolutely.
Of the work that we've done. So when you see Melly Mel, you tell him he's a Master G.
Right.
He keeping it real.
No, absolutely. Because, being it is a unique position to be in because, historically and economically, hip hop added a lot. It added a lot to the prestige of Black people at one point. Now, not so much because of the behaviors. And then nobody speak out again because I tell people all the time, these young dudes, they don't represent me. And then what I try to tell women is like a sexy red don't represent you.
Right.
But then they empathize with it so much. They be, well, if the guys could do it, then why can't the girls do it? Because the girls got to raise kids. That's why.
Right.
A nigga could afford to go out and fuck up.
Yeah.
After he done planted his seed. And if he got a good woman, he's good. He just planted the seed.
Built the foundation.
Everything else happens on his own. You don't necessarily, you don't necessarily got to be hands-on all the way every time.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because you planted your seed. With a woman, is different. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Let me stay with that for a second. What do you think of the way that the crime and all of the things that are happening among African-American kids, African-American youth, I should say, and what can be done to change it?
Well, as far as the quickest solution, you gotta keep them indoors. Just don't let them out on the street. You have to curfew them.
They're out of control.
And then the first thing is, well, what about the kids? You ain't even thinking about that. You thinking about trying to save your community.
Right.
All them kids that's running. What even a good kid, what are you going to be doing at 11 o'clock at night in the streets?
Right.
9 o'clock, he's done. We're done. Everybody's inside. You don't need none of that. Until they learn how to go out and handle themselves in a proper manner. Because see, the problem with kids has been going on is not like is just more volatile. But now if you talk to somebody, an educator, whatever, and years ago, 20, 30 years ago, they'd be like, well, there are kids that can't fill out a job application.
Well, Governor Hochul said that the kids in the Bronx don't know what computers are.
Right. And see, that's the cop-out.
But that's the concept, and that's the thought pattern of people that don't take the time to get to know or help or try to help a young person.
Right.
So you automatically assume that these young children of color in Bronx County don't know what a computer is, Governor? That's a damn shame.
Of course they do. And look, okay, they don't know how to fill out a job application. Now, that sounds good. It sounds good. But what's on a job application? Everything that you should already know.
Right.
You just ain't filling it out.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And then that's when you keep fueling that, you just have a kid that's going to say, "Yeah, well, I don't have no future." How would you know? You're not even trying to go to the future that you could have.
Right.
the future that you want, it ain't no future in that. If you just trying to run around the street and just go rob and steal, you know what I mean? One of the hardest things to do is just to live straight. Just to, you work a job, you know what I mean, and raise a family. That's hard.
That is difficult for some people.
It's hard. I mean, because the way they teach us the way life is supposed to be, the things that you're supposed to have, you know what I mean? And you could get those things, but it don't come overnight. It don't come cheap. You have to put in your work.
Can't skip the process.
There you go.
You cannot skip the process. You have to go through it.
And our kids right now, they don't have no concept of, it's just like the respect of authority. The way you talk to your mother, the way you talk to your friends, the way you would talk to your teacher, the way you would talk to somebody that's supposed to, like your employer, the way you would talk to a police. That's all 5, 6, 7 different types of conversations.
Right.
You can't bro your way through everybody.
Right. You're absolutely right.
You see what I'm saying? And this is how these kids are. They think that they're the authority. So there is no authority.
They think one size fits all.
Yeah, they'll call their mother bro. They'll call a woman bro. They talking to trying to get make an eye exam, bro. I'm not listening to that.
And you're not making this shit up either. It's real talk.
That's how they are.
That's how they are.
Because they think that their way is the only way. Like they so superior in their non-intellect that this is the way that it's gonna go.
Yeah, they definitely, some of them got it twisted.
Yeah, and that's all the drama. How is it that everywhere these kids go, it's always some kind of friction because the communication part of it is all off. You talking to everybody like everybody's the dudes that you run with.
Right.
Y'all could kid and bullshit each other, you know.
Right.
If my man, yo, you bitch ass nigga, if it's my man, I'm not gonna feel some kind of way.
Right.
But if somebody I don't know say that,
that's a problem.
And that's the problem everywhere they go.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
You're going into Burger King. This is somebody that he's been working 5, 6, 7 hours a day for a little bit, and then you talking to him, you know, bitch ass nigga, and you know.
Yeah, throwing a hamburger at him, acting all a fool, putting it on TV and saying, "Look what I did, ha ha ha," and until something go pop, and then the next thing you know, oh man, he got shot. What did he get shot for? A hamburger, because people getting tired of it.
Right.
People getting tired of being disrespected.
Right.
You know, you've done a lot in your career. You've actually got a Grammy.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, a couple. I got the first Grammy I got was for Shaka Khan. I Feel For You, when she was the Record of the Year in 1984.
The Record of the Year, Shaka Khan, 1984. I Feel For You.
Yeah.
Wow. How did you play into that? How do you play into that?
Well, the concept to do the record, to actually do the record, he had passed as of now. He'd been passed a year ago, but it was back then. He was like maybe 70 years old, and his name was Arif Mardin.
Okay,
and he was a famous a record producer, and he had the idea to do a R&B record and have rap in it.
Okay.
So one of the guys that used to work at Sugar Hill Records, his name was Reggie Griffin. He was the guy that arranged the record. They took the record I Feel For You was actually written by Prince. Prince, and he actually did the record. Prince did it. He didn't not only write it, he did it and he put it out. But Shaka Khan did the record over, and then they added the rap, and then they added a Stevie Wonder sample. Wow. And then that's how the whole thing came together. But I was never in the studio with them. I just put my voice on a 2-inch tape, and they flew it in.
Wow.
So, nobody was never really together. Like Shaka did her part, I did my part, and I guess they flew the Stevie Wonder part. And of course, Prince wrote the record. And I didn't think too much, I didn't really understand R&B back then, so we just did it and they put it all together. And I'm in a cab and I'm coming uptown from the Roxy. And I'm high as hell.
The Roxy.
I'm high as hell, right? So I'm in the back of the cab. And I just Shaka Khan, Shaka Khan. And I'm thinking I'm tripping, right? Because I
Okay.
hear my voice, but I'm in the back of the cab, and then the beat, and then it finally hit me. I was like, oh, this is the record that it just came out.
Wow.
Big, nice response. We overseas. We doing like a USO tour, so we do playing all the army bases in Germany, all in Europe.
Nice.
And that was the Grammys, and then they wanted me to do the Grammys, so I had to fly from Germany to London, and then from London to L.A. to do the Grammys with Shaka Khan. And that was the first time that I seen her that night when I got to the Grammy, the first time that I met her. And then right after that, I had to get up early in the morning, fly back from L.A. To New York to London to Germany to finish the tour.
Damn.
Yeah.
But then you were the first rapper to receive a Grammy, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. And if documents speak for themselves, Hall of Fame, brother.
Yeah, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. But,
Tell me about that.
Well, being the first group that was inducted, I didn't see too much into it because like how I'm this from the perspective I'm looking at it's like this. They want to use rap to more or less embellish what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is. Because it's two different music genres.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
So they, being that rap is the music of today, they want to use rap to embellish it. And that's basically what they did, right? And it didn't hit me till like years later, like, okay, when we first get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then people, you see people on the street, congratulations on that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing. Now we done did, a lot of awards, got a lot of awards, everything, and it has a shelf life, like
right.
Of 6 months to go by, a year go by, and then but. With the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is like if I haven't seen somebody in 3 or 4 or 5 years, that's the first thing. Hey man, congratulations on that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing. And then just really understanding what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is. This is the best of the people that ever did it.
These are the icons. These are the top of the game.
Right. That ever did it.
Right.
And being that we were the first ones, and then it just hit me. It's like you're in a space like of greatness. This is Elvis. This is the Beatles. Like this is all these classic records and all these iconic groups that's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we were lucky enough and blessed enough to be chosen to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Because there's a lot of great artists that still ain't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And never will be.
Right.
They're not that good.
Right.
They're good at some things, but you brought it full circle. You brought it to where everybody, look, full disclosure, we were standing downstairs a little while ago. White guy gets out his car, walks past, looks at you, runs back to his car, runs back over to me, because now I'm outside standing alone. You're inside. Says to me, there's greatness here. I'm looking at this guy. What are you talking? He says, that's the legend right there. That's the legend, Melly Mel, that's the legend. Would you take a picture of us? I say, he in this public place, I'll take the picture of you, Mel. He said, can I take a picture with you? So yeah, you came full circle. You still, to this day, have people who recognize you and know of your craft and know who you are.
Right.
Look at you, bro. You in great shape. You 47, you said?
Yes, right. Almost backwards.
But you look good, man.
Hey.
You look good, and when you're at the top of your game, you continue to reinvent yourself.
Right.
Like I and others,
right.
We have to reinvent ourselves. What's next for Melly Mel?
Well, I think next is probably just more of the same.
Let me ask a question. I'm just thinking outside the box here. The art of rap.
Right.
Mick, Ice, all y'all, the art of rap. When are the viewers going to be able to see a Broadway show of the art of rap?
Yeah, see, and a lot of people been talking about that, and I think that is the next level, because as far as what hip hop goes, you basically only see it as far as media wise, you is okay. Is radio, and then of course is the internet. And some TV, but I think the next level and is the Broadway plays is things like that to where people could come and then it becomes more like a treasure. Because what people see on the radio, it's like you could that's you need to hear or there, I mean, or a video, or especially online. That's more like smoke and mirrors, most of that. But when you can have people flying all over the world to do to see a residency in Vegas or to coming from all over to see Broadway plays, that's when that it's more of a treasure.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like, okay, yeah, we just going to do a show and we're going to go to Chicago. No, when you on Broadway, people plan their plan their whole vacation to come see, Cats on Broadway or whatever it is.
Right.
So I think, things like that, because for me, you have to restore some kind of respect back in hip hop.
Okay. You think it's lost?
Yeah, I think it lost a little bit of credibility because of all the street stuff. I mean,
Right.
it don't, it is what it is, but that's not where the money is.
Right.
It's just like 50 Cent. He had a lot of big records, but he's not even known for the records because the records, they don't mean as much as him making the movies.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So you always got to go to the next level, do more of that, more, production. But but I'm old school. I still want to write. I still want to have a hit song. But you always got to step your game up. You always got to elevate the game. So I think it's just reinventing what rap really or what hip hop really is, past the point of just people just seeing what's going on in the street.
Well, I listen, I agree with you 1,000%. And I also think that when you allow yourself to know when it's time to reinvent yourself, that's the most important part of it all. Saying, let me go to the next level now. And I've done that already.
Right.
Been there, done that. Let me go do this now. The young people that are watching right now, older people too, they want some advice on where do they start. When they take that pen to paper, when they pen this, the first thing that they have to get into their head when they pen this is what?
I would say that, you just have to have some form of originality to go along with your creativity.
And the originality that you gave, because I'm sure not too many people knew the connection between Stevie Wonder and The Message.
No, they didn't.
And, I think that's because now I'm looking at it totally in a different perspective as well, because I'm like, wow, okay.
Right.
That's where it originated from.
Yeah, and see, and that's why you have to have because look, you got rappers right now, and I've seen this is about 3 or 4 years ago. It was a 40-year-old rapper. He didn't know who Melly Mel was. And he was 40. I was like maybe 59. But he didn't know who Melly Mel was. And it's not like none of this is ancient history. But me saying that is that they don't study. They're not students. They study what they know. Instead, you got to study outside of what you know to get to the next level.
Now they better listen to a little bit of this.
And look, and that record has been done and has been a hit. Puffy did it. Ice Cube did it.
Really?
Is the most, as far as successful, just a very successful record. That's the difference between us and every other group is that record.
This one right here.
Yeah, that's the one. Big shout out to Sylvia Robinson.
Right. Not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. That's powerful, man. This is all you.
Yeah.
And then, I got to go back to this for one more second, man. 16 years old, penning this?
Yeah.
Wow. But it is, and okay, you're sitting, where are you penning this at? In your bedroom? You downstairs, upstairs? You on the roof? Where you at doing this?
No, just sitting in the house. Just
sitting in the house.
Yeah.
Because of Mr. Torres slapping you upside your head.
Yeah. Big shout out to Mr. Torres.
For sure, man.
We need a couple of hundred more of him around.
In the school system, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and what do you think of the, I guess, the politics in New York right now?
Well, I think I think they way too easy on kids. Cause I remember it was at some point. And I met the woman that when she had didn't change it, but she decriminalized it. Okay, making noise in public urination, smoking in public, fair beating and small amounts of weed. And the reason why she did it because she was saying that if they keep getting arrested for these little menial crimes that they won't be able to work but if you're doing all those 5 things and it's decriminalized, you're not gonna work.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So
right.
So the laws are laws for a reason. If you obey them, you stay straight.
Right.
If you have lax laws, you have the kids that you have right now. They don't have to listen to you. You can't make them.
There's no consequence to what they're doing.
None at all.
None at all.
None at all. Jail, I mean, you know how jail is. Jail ain't even jail.
No.
How do you go to jail? You get your own wing in jail. Okay, yeah, this is the blood wing. This is the crip wing. Hey, listen. When you go to jail, I'm going to put you in a cell for somebody that you can't rape or kill, and then that's that. I don't care. I don't care who you got. I don't care.
Right.
You know, what you're doing, it ain't important anyway.
That's right. You ain't doing nothing.
They have the luxury of sitting in jail and watching everything everybody do to buck the system just to get hot water. You could do that outside.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? Just to make it, to sneak in a cell phone.
Yeah.
You could do that outside.
They all got cell phones. Right. Everybody got a cell phone. I've never even understood that one. Never.
But this is, they want to make it so easy that they make it easy. Jail is easier than home. Mm-hmm. I mean, even though you don't listen to nobody at home, but you should listen to somebody at home.
Right.
You go to jail.
You're forced to listen to someone. Whether you want to or not, you're going to listen. They're going to figure it out. You're going to get it understanding. Tell me about your family, man.
Well, family to me is family to me is not kinfolk.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Family, you have brothers, you have sisters.
Right.
We all grown. We don't. Yeah, if I don't agree with nobody, we ain't spending holidays together.
Gotcha.
My family is my family, like my kids.
Right.
That's my family.
How many kids you got?
Well, you got 9, 10.
Hey, okay.
We up there. I got 3 great grandkids.
Really? Congratulations, brother.
Yeah.
Congratulations. They know grandpa, huh?
Yeah.
They what do they call you?
Old man. but jokingly.
In love. It's love.
Yeah, because
it's agape love. Absolutely.
I was raised old school. So any kid of mine, and I don't care how old you are, you're going to talk to me like you're talking to your father.
Yes.
I'm not your friend. We ain't doing none of that.
Right.
If you want to do like that, I could write you off. I got 8 other kids.
They ain't running around calling you Melly Mel.
Nah, none of that.
You ain't playing
none of that, bro. And yo.
No, I don't play that.
Yeah, you talk. Either you talking to your father, or just don't talk to your father.
To this day, I still call people older than me Mr. or Mrs.
Right, because see,
that's the way I was raised.
Because that the thing is levels, and everybody, you have to stay on your level, and you have to stay in your place. Kids don't stay in a kid's place. They think they put more on, but that's adults' fault. They put more on being a kid. You know what I mean? It's just like something simple. You bring your kid in a room with adults. When we was kids, the kid had to speak to everybody. And that was an ass whipping. How you doing, Mr. So-and-so? How you doing, Mr. So-and-so? How you doing, Miss So-and-so? That was what you had to do as a kid.
Then get out the room because you was in the wrong room. Right.
These kids, they'll sit there and they won't have to say nothing to nobody, just sitting there like they the most important thing. Hey, listen,
And they all up in your conversation.
Now, if you ain't do nothing with your life yet, you a kid, get away from me.
Right.
That's how I see kids like that. Kids should be seen, not heard.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm watching you. Mm-hmm. But all that con man shit that kids do, I'm not listening to none of that. You know what I mean?
And you know what's scary too is you watch how many parents are hanging out with their kids like they homeboys and homegirls with each other. That's crazy. They don't respect their parents, and you can't tell me that they do, or vice versa, because you're allowing them to be exposed to some things that there should be some type of boundary there.
Absolutely.
And they're not doing that at all.
No.
These days.
Because see, that falls into the part they trying to hear too much of what's going on in the kids' world. That ain't got nothing to do with you. That's irrelevant.
That's my favorite line. That ain't got nothing to do with me.
Right. That's irrelevant. What a kid, because you should already know.
Yes.
You should already know what's on a kid's mind. You see what I'm saying? They're trying to understand. Once you try to understand the mindset of a kid, then you're going back to a kid. You should be way, it's like I'm not even, well, listen, I'm not even going to address that. Did you clean that room? I don't want to hear all that. Or did you do your homework?
Right.
I don't want to hear the nuances of why you didn't or what's so hard. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
And we talking about school? They go through all that, but you just talking about you getting up to go to school. Right. I know, a female, good people, right? She has a daughter. Her daughter has a daughter. The daughter is 3 years old. I call to talk to her. And I hear voices in the background. And I hear the kid in the background. And it's 11:30 at night, and the kid got to go to school. The mother don't want to talk hot to the kid. The grandmother don't want to talk hot to the mother. The grandmother could talk hot to me, but the kid is talking hot to them.
Make this make sense.
Who raises who?
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? Who raises who?
It's crazy. It is absolutely. But you see, I'm hoping that people get the opportunity to say, okay, how can I transform myself by listening to some of the key things that Grandmaster Mel suggested. You were on a couple of TV. You was on, what was it? What was the TV show that you was on? Where was it? Beat Street?
Beat Street. Yeah,
Beat Street. Okay. And how did you get involved in that? I mean, just out of nowhere?
No. Well, actually, Beat Street was already being filmed. Harry Belafonte was the director, and they was.
You worked with Brother Belafonte?
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful man. That's passed on. But
great
I'm
man.
sorry.
So it was toward the end part of the movie, and they just needed a song for the big celebration part at the end. Mm-hmm. So I was supposed to write the song for the guy that did the lead in the movie, for him to perform at the celebration that's at the end of the movie. So I had the conversation with Harry Belafonte, and he's like, he mesmerized the whole room. He was very eloquent, good, good speaker. You know what I mean?
True leader too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wrote the song, and that actually was some of my best work. The Beat Street Breakdown song. And then when they gave the song to the guy, he wasn't a rapper, so he couldn't really he couldn't get it. He couldn't couldn't learn it, or
right,
just because he wasn't a rapper. So then that was when they had to have us in the movie to do the song, because he couldn't do the song. So even if you listen to it, they tweaked my voice a little bit for him to just, he just mimicked the first verse, and then I came in and did the second verse. But that's how we got in the movie. We never was supposed to be in the movie. I was just supposed to write the song.
Well, that's God, bro. You
was
supposed to be in the movie. That's why homie couldn't recite what you did.
Right.
You're a master G. Like I said, you can't duplicate it.
Right.
You know, you can't copy this. What you're seeing here, brothers and sisters watching right now, what you're seeing here is a Master G.
Right.
Someone who's been there, done that. You understand what I'm saying? And still about to go into another transition to go further. You know, what's next for Mel?
You know, I think, and I'm gonna just, you know, be real simple. You know, I think for me, I think my next mission is that people just gotta understand that there's nothing wrong with being an older dude. You know what I mean? They put a lot of, you know, a value on being young, but I think, you know, I'm having the best time of my life right now. I'm getting ready to be 64. I mean, I feel, you know.
I'm 65. Man.
Right. I feel great. I mean, I think a lot better. Mm-hmm. You know, I have, you know, more control over what's going on now, you know. But I think with everybody just being older is by time you get older, you're not you know, like if you could work and have money and save money, by the time you're older, is like, what do you do with it?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. They're not enjoying themselves.
Or you'll get older and then you're too old to make the money.
Right.
Even if you sometimes you're too old to make the money. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's this apprehension about, you know, maturing. I don't even see it as being old. I just see it as maturity. Because, you know, back in the day, you know, in the African day, no matter what happened, they would bring the strongest, the most beautiful, whoever. They'll bring her to the old guy, and he's the one that's going to say what's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because the wisdom, you can't top that. You know, the wisdom of age.
That's right.
You can't top that. You know, they just look at it like, now, but what did he know? I think he do know. You just ain't taking the time out, you know.
You're not getting a lesson. You're not learning the lesson. You're trying to skip the process. So I think, you know, with
just, and with not even having to be preachy, I think, you know, what I'm...
You could be preachy, brother. You the Grandmaster.
No, I'm saying, but just, you know, I mean, sometimes you could just look at certain people and you'd be like, yeah, he got it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And just that alone, you know, so that people understand that is a part of life. When you're older, that's the most important part of your life.
Absolutely.
If you really look at it, you know, if you really could, you know, get past all the hurdles that it take growing up.
Right.
And then when you're grown, because a lot of young people don't understand. Even when I was in, you know, you could be 20, you could be 30, you still would have the mentality, you know, the finances of a kid.
Right.
Like if you're 35 and you live with your mother, don't tell me how grown you are.
Right.
You still a kid. You live with Ma and them.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But just you know, you're mature enough. You got your finances together. Your head is on straight. You know, you know, and everything is where it's supposed. Now we talking grown, and that's the part that I think a lot of people try to, you know, they try to maintain their youth. When a lot of that youth is not, you know, it is not taking you nowhere.
It's gone. It's your youth. You can't put that in a bottle and save it.
Right.
You know, it evaporates.
Right.
It evaporates. Eventually it evaporates. And it's like you said with the hurt and the scars. People, it's not that you get a scar, you got stitched up, whatever it may be. It's how you remember. It's your perspective of how you remember that scar that allows you to get to that next level. If every time you get ready to cross the street and you're afraid to cross the street, it's because you remember getting hit by a car.
Right.
Okay? You got to get that out of your mind.
Right.
And that's what holds people back. What's holding a lot of people back these days is that their perspective of what happened to them, and they don't allow themselves to go forward.
Right.
And you're not that person, brother. You've always been a solid brother.
Right.
Every single time I've ever seen you, encountered you, or ever heard about you, it's always been in a positive light. It's never been in a negative light. And that comes from the upbringing of your parents.
Right.
Where this whole conversation started from 163rd Street and Union Avenue.
Right.
You understand? Johnson's Barbecue. When Mr. Johnson used to raise chickens in his backyard next to Jane Addams High School. Remember that,
That's
huh?
right. That's right.
We used to play ball in 174. in the school after school, and that's a beautiful thing. Any final words, brother?
I'd just like to say, was happy to be here. Mr. Norman Seabrook, he's somebody we always gonna support him.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Because we always seen a lot in him. He was one of the bright spots, and we here for you, man, and we here for y'all too. This is why we doing this. It's always it's always a plan, and this is why we doing this, to uplift us. So just keep your head up and stay positive.
And
because we moving up.
Yes, we are.
That's right.
Because it's time for a change in New York City and New York State. It's got to change.
That's right.
It's horrible. And people could talk all they want about the presidency and this one and that one. I ain't got nothing to do with that right now.
Right.
We got to take care of our home first.
That's right.
Once we take care, look, the Bible even says a house divided against itself is not going to win. It's not going to conquer.
That's right.
So we got to take care of our communities one block at a time, and we got to make sure that we stay 10 toes down.
That's right.
Love you, brother. Thank you so much for coming in, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
you.